welcome to Making Through the Seasons. My name is Lauren. You can find me on Ravelry as LaurensMakes, and I'm also on Instagram as Making Through the Seasons as well. I'm going to share with you some of the things that I got up to creatively in the month of June. I have been doing a little bit of knitting, a little bit of crocheting, and I did a sewing project as well. I'll start with one of the crocheted projects that I've been working on. This month we are going to visit my husband, his family, and I've made some presents. So it's his sister's birthday and I have made for her this Highland cow. It's a crochet pattern. It's by Olga Piliponis. You can find it, I bought it on Etsy, but you might be able to get it on Ravelry as well. And it's a crochet pattern, and I made this out of, there's two different yarns in here. The darker color is a big twist in cardamom, I believe. Yep, it's big twist plush in cardamom, and then the horns, paws, hooves, maybe we can call them, and face are out of Burnette blanket. And this is a dappled, and it actually comes in this big sort of cake, I guess you could call it, this big cake of plush yarn here. And I used a little bit of the outside as well as the inside for the slightly darker color that I got on the face there. And overall it's super cute. She has a little tail. There were two patterns in there. You can make a she or a he, and the hair was different on them. So the she has like the braided hair. For the hair, I used some leftover knit picks. I believe it was a cotton knit picks that I had left over. I went through my stash to find sort of the right color brown to make for the hair, and this is what I came up with. I think it's absolutely adorable. It's the softest, like plushest thing to hold on to. I had a little bit of a hard time crocheting it. The plush yarn is a little difficult to see where the crochet chains are to go into, and I'm not the most proficient crocheter, so I found it just a little bit challenging to make sure that I wasn't increasing or decreasing as I went around, because the plush yarn kind of hides the stitches just enough that you're not sure if you're going into the stitch that you're supposed to, the one that you've just been in, or the next one in line. But overall, it's such a fun and so cuddly toy. So this one will be given to my husband's sister for her birthday when we go. And then I also made my husband's nephew and his fiance are expecting, and they're expecting in November. So I thought that I would get started on making some baby items for them. And the first thing I made is the Easy Knitted Blanket. This is a pattern by Mary Lee Miller, and I did it in a Plymouth Encore yarn. I wanted to choose a wool yarn that was also very washable, and it allowed me to block it. So acrylic, although it would be super washable and easy wear for the baby, I thought that the pattern, because I wanted to be able to block it to lie flat, I just wasn't sure that that was going to work so well for this pattern. Overall, I love it. It took quite a bit of yarn. I made this using the recommended needle size, which was a US 8 or a 5mm needle. In the Plymouth, that's the same yarn needle combination that the yarn and the pattern both call for, and so I think it came out really nice. They do know the gender, but I thought that I would make a fairly gender neutral blanket in case there's any future babies that want to share the blanket as well. This way here it's neutral enough that it could be used for boys or girls in the future. And I forgot to mention the hook size on the crochet. I just remembered. So the pattern called for a 4mm hook. However, when I tried to use the 4mm hook with the yarn that I was using, I just wasn't able to do it. It was too tight. I couldn't pull the yarn through in the right way. It just wasn't really working. And so I ended up going up to a 5mm, and I think that it resulted in a slightly larger cow than had I used the 4mm with maybe the yarn that was recommended. I believe the yarn that's recommended isn't something that's widely available in the US. So I think the pattern said that it should be just under maybe 10 inches, and I think this little guy's probably closer to a foot in total size. But I don't think it's not too big. It's just cuddly enough. I'm not going to talk about the cow anymore. And then the next thing that I've been working on, in my last update, I talked about taking an online course on Argyle and how it showed me how much work I really needed to do to be proficient at Argyle. And so I have purchased the Argyle hat pattern by Harry Wells. He was the instructor in the class that I took. And I started this Argyle hat. And this here is out of Ashford merino wool. It's a DK weight yarn, and all 4 colors are in the same Ashford yarn. I'm doing this on 5mm needle, which I believe is the recommended needle gauge for the pattern itself. And I have been finding that knitting with these easy bobbins, I believe they're called. They're a silicone bobbin that pops open to allow you to wind on the yarn, and then they pop close and it holds the yarn right in the little edge seal there. These have been absolutely amazing. It makes it so much easier than the traditional bobbins where they were constantly getting caught up in the strings and I was really fighting with it. I found with this these bobbins and this pattern, I have really been enjoying this. It's a different type of knitting. A lot of the knitting that I do is fairly mindless, repetitive, easy to memorize knitting, and this is completely different. With this, you really have to be sort of in the zone, paying attention. It's very mindful rather than mindless knitting, and although it's different than what I normally choose to knit, I really have been enjoying this, and I think this is coming out much better than my initial swatch was. So I think that there is some progress being made on here. I recently found out that the level 2 master hand knitting certification Argyle doesn't actually have to have the crosses done in knitting. It's possible to duplicate stitch them afterwards. However, this pattern is more of that traditional, using the cross patterning in knitting, carrying the strings along behind. So that was the Argyle hat pattern by Harry Wells. And then the next thing I'm gonna talk about is actually a sock. I'm gonna go grab it. Hold on one second. I'm back, and I have the next project I'm gonna show is a pair of socks. I'm making this out of Shirsty Cat Designs in their Just Sock yarn, and the color is called Karma. I'm making these for my son, and I'm gonna do about this length, so I'm going to stop here and put in the heel. I always do my vanilla socks as cuff down, 2x2 rib, a eye of partridge heel, and then decreases down to the foot. And this one I'm doing on 2.25mm needles, which is what I do most of my socks on. I like the tight gauge that it provides. And this is 56 stitches. If I hadn't mentioned, he's a kid size 2-3 shoes, so it's about that right size for, I think, probably all the way up to maybe a kid's 4 sneaker size or shoe size in the US. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about, my daughter celebrated her birthday in May. In early June, we had a birthday party for her, and I've wanted to make this for a long time to have as like a birthday bunting that we could put up in our house when anyone has a birthday. And I didn't quite get it made for her birthday because I was making so many other things. So I actually made it for her birthday party, which we had at the local sort of community center. And what I have is a bunting. I use the Freckles & Co. Bunting flag template, and I printed that off of, the cat is all caught up in the bunting. I printed that off of online, and the bunting pattern that I got, this was a free online printable, was a little bit shorter than I was looking for, and so I just used my quilting ruler and extended out to the edges of the paper, the printing paper that I had. So this is as large as, I don't know, 8.5 by 11 sheet paper could allow it going upwards. So I printed that out, and then I had many different fabrics. Some of them I bought for this purpose a few years ago when I wanted to make this and just hadn't gotten around to it. And then some of them are leftovers from some other projects. And so I cut out the pendants or the bunting, and then I used my computer and I printed out I picked a font that I really liked, and then I put it in like a shadow, so it created a larger, and then I printed the letters that would make up happy birthday. And I'll put in a picture so you can get a better view of the whole happy birthday, but I'll stretch it out for you. This is actually starting at the end of happy birthday. So here's the bunting. This is just some leftover quilting fabric that I had from a previous quilting project, and some of them, this one makes me, brings back memories. I made my son a little one of those like crinkle toys using the inside of a cereal bag. After we had eaten the cereal, I took the cereal bag, cleaned it up, and then put it inside sort of a fabric envelope, and then sewed little like satin ribbons and different things that he could play with as like a little sensory toy when he was just born, or when he was just a baby. And then I have some balloons, different styles of balloons, and then it says happy birthday. Oh, let's see. And we have in our kitchen, you can kind of see it behind us, we have these windows here, and there's some hooks above them where we hang up different garlands for different times in the year, like Christmas garlands, autumnal garlands. So I thought that for each one of our birthdays in the year, we could go ahead and hang this up in the kitchen, so that when you come down sort of first thing in the morning on your birthday, you can see the little birthday bunting to celebrate your day. And that's about it for things that I have finished or working on. I'm filming this a little bit early because we are going to visit the family, where I'm going to be giving away the gifts that I have been making this month. So I'll include some footage, most likely after this, of different things going on around our house, as well as some footage from our trip that's coming up. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next month, where I'll share all the makes that I've gotten up to in the next month. Thanks. Bye.